Hello, everyone, and welcome to the best and worst of Walt Disney World. I am your host, Ryan O'Clavin, and today's episode, we're going to be talking about the best attractions to rope drop. And to join me for that discussion, we've got Mr. Charles Boda.
Hello.
Ms. Steve Porter.
Hello.
And Mr. Craig Williams.
Did you call him Ms. Steve
I
Porter?
left out an R by accident. Yes, I sure did.
All right.
Sorry about that, Stephen Elizabeth Porter. Thank you for joining me, gentlemen, as if you had an option. And we are going to dive right into here to what we believe are the best attractions, like I said, to rope drop. Now, they're not... I should like put a little asterisk here. They're not like the... We're going with the independent film version, not the mainstream action popcorn flick. So we're saying the ones that we recommend because everybody else goes to a different one.
Yes.
There's got to be a better way to word that. I don't know how. I should probably take some sort of speech therapy lesson or something. I don't know. But
Yeah, we're assuming with this that you have your fast passes for the big rides that
Yes.
really matter, the ones you want to do, like Flight of Passage or Slinky Dog Dash, but you're still getting there for rope drop. You're going to wait with your fast pass till later to experience those. What are you going to do in the meantime? What are you going to start your
honestly,
morning with?
some of those, even one that Craig mentioned, Slinky Dog Dash, I sometimes think is busier at rope drop than it is about an hour after rope drop. But whatever. Or Frozen is another example of one. However, we are not talking about that. We're talking about the best. And who wants to go first? Charles, thank you for volunteering.
You're welcome. Happy to do so.
You're welcome. You're welcome. Thank you.
Fallen told. Yeah, so I chose Animal Kingdom's Safari. And the reason is because the Safari it's got a long enough queue and it fills up relatively quickly. If you get there right in the morning, it's got a couple benefits. One, you make it through the queue pretty quickly. Obviously, you get right on before the crowds. But the other one is that the animals, like this ride is very time sensitive. So at different points in the day, you're going to get more animal activity. I go to Animal Kingdom for the animals. I know they've got all the Avatar stuff now, and that's a big draw. But if you like animals and you want to see animals, then you want to hit the Safari at the right time. And rope drop is perfect. It's in the morning. They're feeding or have fed them recently. They're not all like...
A little more active before it gets too hot.
Once it gets too hot, a lot of them will, they'll go for shade or, just conk out. It's not a big high activity motion thing for them. So morning is a great time. You bypass the lines that you're still going to deal with later on.
The queue is a terrible queue to get stuck into. It's just that one... Is the video even there anymore? Mm-hmm. It's no Wilson in the video, so what's the point?
Most of it is just like Mr. fans and Florida humidity and stuff.
Yeah.
So it can be a hassle to wait through. But if you just rush right through, get on, and you'll get to see the animals at a prime viewing time. So that's hands down, that's my favorite rope drop ride.
Yeah, going and doing it at rope drop is one of the few times I saw the lions actually being active. Mm-hmm. Usually they're just laying on the rock, but this time, the big male lion was walking around, and I was like, cool.
Okay, I do have a funny story that's kind of relevant, but not. So we went, and he must have just gone to sleep. So this is I've not been super fortunate enough to get a really great view of the lion's upper half, but he was laying on the rocks one day, just spread eagle on his back, and it was clearly the lion. And the driver was like, I don't know what to say here. And they were like, he made some joke about it, but it was just one of those moments where I was like, oh God. And they talked about how inactive they are. So every time I think about I really want to see the lions because I've only ever seen what the vet would see of this lion. Well,
and the first time I'd ever been on it was rope drop. And on that Pride Rock thing, the lion was there and he looked so majestic.
I've seen some awesome pictures.
Not your kind of majestic.
Yes,
the more traditional just looked big and brave and majestic, and it was wonderful. And I, in my head, because it was my first time, I was like, oh, wow, this is great. This must happen all the time.
Yeah.
This is the big draw.
No.
And everybody with me is like, we've been on this 20 times and we've never seen it. But in the morning, you've got a much greater chance of catching those kind of epic activity moments.
Yeah. What do you think, Craig? What do you like to rope drop? Or do you have anything to weigh in on the Safari, I should say?
But I don't have anything to weigh in on that, so bully to you, Charles. Mine was... Oh, I remember mine. I had forgotten about it for a second.
Do you need me to remind you?
No, I remember, trust me. Mine I chose over at Epcot, Soarin'. So Soarin' is... still that great e-ticket attraction that it has been for the years that it's been open. But with the way that Fastpass is set up for Epcot, you basically have your choice with that tier 1. You either have Soarin', you have Test Track, or you have Frozen Ever After. For me, Frozen Ever After, that's what I would try to get a Fastpass Plus for if I could. Test Track, you always have single riders to fall back on. With Soarin', we all know and hate that line.
Oh, it barely moves at all.
And sorry, Steve. Will you give me a second? I'm joking. I'm messing with you. No, I just with it, even with the extra theater, it still feels like it's a long wait. But
was that New York's hottest new club that you just mentioned too?
Yeah.
Will you give me a second?
Will you give me a second, Steve?
I also, what I hate about that queue, and I said it probably 100 times, but I hate how wide it is. So you have to like play defense against like the people that are trying to get past you.
Yeah, especially if you're like a party of 2, you're like elbow to elbow guys.
Link arms.
I also like it too. Back in the day, this was always the one where we'd go and rope drop it and then get your paper fast pass for right afterwards. But part of it is that because you have that split at rope drop of are you going to do Frozen, Soarin', or Test Track, I feel like a good amount of people still go to Soarin'. A lot of people still do. But at this time of the day, I feel less awkward about having to be bratty and ask for those ideal middle rows then. Usually when it's very busy in the day, I don't want to make cast members' lives harder and ask them like, hey, you know which row I want. You know which row I'm going to ask you for. So why don't we just do it? I don't bother them. That was always like the joke at Harry Potter and the Forbidden Journey. Can we get the front row? Like, they're all front rows, but they're there to help you as much as possible. But when things are crazy and hectic, the last thing you ever should do is try to make their lives more stressful.
Yeah.
But with that first time in the morning, same thing goes with like late at night. As long as you're not like telling them, "Hey, I want this row. Can we do one more ride?" But first thing in the morning, if there's only 20 people there, I don't feel bad asking like, "Hey, can I have that prime row?" And when you're up high and you feel the wind and the smells, it really invigorates you and like starts your morning off in a good way. So
plus the land is right there, so when you step out, you have like a fairly good place that you can grab like a not too heavy snack to get the day going. If you just like went right there, you didn't eat or something like that, you can get some like hummus to go or something like that. So it does set you off in the right way, I think.
And you could beat that tightly packed rush for living with the land because it's still early in the morning.
You know how I feel about this attraction. Let's not talk about it. So anyway,
Mine?
Yeah.
I chose Peter Pan's Flight. I think that Peter Pan's Flight is a great classic Disney attraction, but it's not one that I would necessarily want to waste my fast passes on. But it's an hour plus if you are waiting in that standby line in the middle of the day. The other reason I wanted to put it on my, or why it was my choice, is because I think the interactive queue is kind of something interesting, and you might want to see and check that out.
I missed that with a fast pass.
So with a fast pass, you kind of bypass that whole interesting queue. I think that waiting for a ride that's like 90 seconds or a little bit longer is not worth wasting a fast pass on, but I think it is worth starting your day out on.
And ours is really manageable first thing in the morning. You don't have like an insane mad rush to get back there. If you've ever been to Disneyland's for like rope drop,
scary.
It is scary because everyone is lined up in the hub all the way across in that bottom half of the circle.
Yeah.
And I can guarantee you that probably 9 out of 10 people in that group of area are all heading for Peter Pan. There was the last time I was out there, I went for rope drop and I was right up on the rope, and only other people on the rope were as close as you could get as I was. And even then, by the time I got into line, it was already 45 minutes.
Wow.
Because I had to circle around. So you don't have to worry about that with ours, because theirs doesn't have Fast Pass after the day gets into it. So it's like, it's important. But with ours, you can rope drop it. It's not that bad. You see the queue. It's a good pick, Steve.
Yeah, and there's other things that you could be using your fast pass on. It's like what you said, not wasting the fast pass and stuff like that too. So, yeah, good one. I picked Rock and Roller Coaster at Hollywood Studios. I find that the fast passes can be like sometimes you can get them, sometimes you still can't. It's still a very popular attraction, and it's not one that I ever want to wait. I don't want to wait in that queue for very long. I mean, I love Aerosmith and everything, but for some reason they're never. I feel like they're not playing the complete song ever.
They haven't changed that music loop since I think it opened up. It's always the same Aerosmith songs.
Yeah.
And I love Aerosmith.
Yeah.
But I can only listen to like Deuces Are Wild so many times before I lose my mind.
There are interesting choices in the songs they chose as well. You're like, no, don't want to. Is Dolan Lose a Thing? I don't think that plays, does it?
I don't even remember.
No,
Deuces Are Wild.
I think
might
Sweet
not
Emotion
even be in
does
it.
for sure, but anyway, I feel like it's one like Tower of Terror. I would never say to do the rope drop because it usually gets like the 20-minute waits. Everybody's going to be going back to Toy Story Land at this point in the day, and if you've been a good like planning your vacation out, you probably already got the fast pass for that. But like I already said, I do feel like Slinky Dog. And Craig and I, when we went to do our breakfast review of Woody's Lunchbox, Woody's Lunchbox. I just second guessed myself. Woody's Lunchbox. We were talking to some listeners back there, and they were saying that they, the rope drop was crazy, but they had gotten there a little bit after rope drop, and it was only like a 45-minute wait. And then I went around, like the park had probably been open for like an hour and a half or something, and the wait time was only about 45 minutes. Or like an hour or something like that. But what I've also heard is they're posting the wait time a lot longer than it actually is. So I was like, okay, well, that's actually pretty manageable, especially if you're somebody who's an annual pass holder or somebody who just kind of came here on a whim and you've lost that window, that 180-day window or something like that, which is the thing. We live here. I don't know until like the day before usually if I want to go. So I might go wake up the next morning and go ride Rock and Roller Coaster and, do my thing.
I think this is a good one, and I think that in the comments we might have people saying, "Well, there's a single rider, so why would you waste going to rope drop?"
I don't know why I'd rather friend.
Well, not only that, but I think that I don't know why this is true, but I've noticed that the single rider at Rock and Roller Coaster is one of the worst single rider lines ever. Like the line takes forever in single rider.
I don't think because I don't think it's in the right place to be merging where it is really. Like I feel like you're waiting in a really bizarre area to get up to where they're going to load you.
And I don't know, I think also with Test Track having 3 seats, 6, but 2 rows of 3.
Yeah.
You have people that want to be in a group together, and if you have like 2 couples, then you automatically have those 2 free seats that go up. But with Rock and Roller Coaster, couples of 2 are perfect for what they need.
Yeah.
So single rider doesn't go anywhere.
The reason I don't like single rider at Rock and Roller Coaster is because you can't control where you're going at all. Single rider, you don't have like the regular line where you can say, I want the back row, I want the front row, I want the middle. I personally don't like the back. And
Rock and Roller Coaster?
Yeah, I don't like the back. I think it's with the design of the ride, it whips you around a little bit too much.
It does whip you, yeah.
I am a purist with most roller coasters. The sweet spot is right where they want it, in the middle. There's mostly middle. That's where they want it. I do enjoy the front too because there's nothing like that launch in the front. So you do single riders. You don't have that option. You go with wherever you're told.
Good point. Yeah.
So, but I agree. That queue is awful. Outside.
There's just nothing to do in it.
Yeah.
Nothing to look at really either. It's all a bunch of Disney Channel like music that is not even relevant anymore. That you don't know. I don't know.
And then plus too, kind of like I mentioned with Soarin', you have that little thrill to start off your day. You can't get much more like hype and thrill than getting launched at 60 miles an hour first thing in the morning. It's a good way to wake you up without coffee. Is there a bird involved there?
That's what I hear. It's like, go. Like, so, and then we all had one that we also agreed on at Animal Kingdom as well. Besides if you're not in the mood for the safari and you want to go for the thrill, we thought that Everest would be a good one to rope drop. And you guys actually had some really good points about this. I personally, if I'm doing Everest, I'm either doing the single rider because it literally takes you out of the queue and like kind of around the side of the building versus going through the building, and then that, or like I feel like Fastpasses are kind of available sometimes if you look a couple days out, but You guys made a good point. Who made the good point about this? I think it was
We all made good.
Yeah, something about a bell. Somebody was talking
Let's
about.
start with Charles.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's one of the things. Everest has a great queue that you totally want to walk through and experience. But if you're stuck waiting there in a long line, they have the interactive annoyance stuff like the bells, where it's just every 30 seconds.
Everybody's ringing the bells.
Everybody, kids are running up and they're ringing them, and it can get like,
Is that from Les Mis?
huh?
Can you hear the bells? Like, isn't that a song? Never mind. Go on.
Well, Hunchback of
I
Notre
think
Dame.
maybe that's what it is.
The bells.
And Lay's
the
thing.
bells. I don't know, whatever. But nevertheless, it's a queue that you definitely want to experience, but you might not want to be stuck in. And so it's
Yeah.
a great thing. Also, it's not as intensive as something like Rock and Roller Coaster, but as far as a morning wake up ride, it's still pretty energetic. It's fun. The ride in and of itself is like without a doubt just a wonderful attraction. But the theming going up to the queue is something you want.
Well, and I am on the side of the people with this queue where I don't love the queue. I don't hate the queue. It's just not a queue I want to be stuck in, where I've had this debate before, I think, with Steve and Craig about it. It's a queue that I don't mind, but I want to be moving through it. I don't want to be stuck standing in it and looking around. Like I don't mind like going in and seeing like the Yeti print, and kind of the little poop area. Where they have the animal stuff.
The poop area.
It's called scat.
The scat.
But that builds up on it, because when you first go in, you're looking at it like, oh, it's just an expedition, and then it slowly turns into the museum, where then you're seeing about the climbing aspect of it, and then comes in the Yeti aspect as well, and seeing the tent all strewn up. So it's very subtle, but it really does move the story along and get you excited about, like, oh, will something go wrong? Well, of course, I've ridden Everest. How many times? I know that the Yeti's coming, but it's still, it builds up in that way. And so even if you're just walking past quickly, I feel like you can still get a grip of it that you don't get in the condensed fast pass version, or at all in the single riders.
Also, as much as I love the museum section, that area is not air conditioned, is it?
No, I feel
there's
like
fans.
it is. But it's like, well, what happens when you air condition a building that has the doors open at all point in time?
true,
Well,
yeah.
it
My mom
stays
yells
hot
at me.
anyways.
And 100 people in the same room, so you
Yeah.
have all that body heat. So I
don't like that. But that's the part I especially always think of when I think of that queue, unfortunately. But
And I also mentioned it for Rock and Roller Coaster, but again, I feel like Everest is, I like, sometimes I want to go and I want to ride in the back.
sometimes I want to be the front row.
Yeah, especially if I have a group of 4, I usually want to ride in the back row, because we want the picture where you don't get it with anyone else in it.
Oh, true. Good tip.
Yeah, if sometimes every now and then I do want the front row. Like, I haven't done that in a while. I want there. Other times I'm content being in the middle. Again, with single riders, you're just placed at a whim.
I find that when you're with somebody on their first experience, that's a great place to sit as the front row because of the broken track, and it's an uncommon. It's not super common for roller coasters to go backwards, or like in regular, everyday like Canopy Lake Park settings or whatever. But
I had a single rider with me on my first experience. It was 2 friends of mine, or a couple, and they were right in front. And this guy was the best. I wish I remembered his name. He just like really just made the experience great for me. If you're ever a single rider and you're paired with somebody, like just really amping them up, I was like, he was excited. I think he had a better time because he was riding with a first timer. But I just wanted to bring it up because it was like the best single rider experience.
did you go through like an interview process with this guy?
No. He asked me. He's like, "So have you been on this before?" And I'm like, "No." And then he starts just getting into it. He's like, "Oh, you're gonna love it," and I'm not gonna tell you what you're gonna love, but like, maybe I'll give you a nudge, but maybe I won't. Who knows what's coming?
This guy sounds insane.
Was he a pirate?
He was.
Was
he was insanely
ghost?
awesome. Oh, you know what? Now that I think about it, he wasn't
I
there
could
when I
see
got
through him.
off the ride.
Well, there you have it. Charles has lost his mind. Well, if you guys have any rides that you think that we missed, or attractions, that you like to rope drop for whatever reason, we'd love to hear about it in the comments below on this video. Or you can, send them to us on Twitter at the.diz, or the email podcast at I forgot disunplug.com. I was like, where do we work? No, but yeah, and also we're open to suggestions for future episodes of this, what you want our opinions on that might be best, might be worse. Love to hear them. Send them into all those places. Thank you guys for having this conversation. If you are watching this video on YouTube, feel free to subscribe to our channel, and you get notified about all of our other wonderful content on here. If you're listening on iTunes, feel free to subscribe as well, rate and review us, all that fun things. And until next time, I put myself in a corner because I don't have a catchphrase to go out on. So I'll just see you next time.